Hi everyone, welcome to a brief video where I'm going to give you some additional tips for writing your empathy interview protocol. So this is one of your Module 5 assignments. And so I'm coming in with just a little additional commentary that you should take into consideration in addition to the instructions that are located in your assignment guidelines there in Canvas. So the primary goal of Module 5 is to write an empathy interview protocol. Or here for this assignment, the goal is to apply some of the skills and some of the knowledge that you are gaining through your reading of Module 5 into action, to give yourself a chance to, first of all, try this on and to explore what both crafting an empathy interview guide or an empathy interview protocol, I might even use guide and protocol interchangeably, what that is like, all of it that it entails, and later on in Module 6 we'll actually be using it. So primary things you need to take or to keep in mind is I am expecting to use your Module 5 resources, period, hands down. Please use your Module 5 resources to guide you as to how we approach empathy interviews and how we approach empathy interviews in an improvement science framework. And you will see how this is coming alongside a lot of what you're reading in this qualitative course. So the goal is to write an empathy interview protocol, one that helps you apply what you've learned in the module to a general topic or problem in education. So there was a little disclaimer in your assignment that is kind of just giving you the reminder that this empathy interview protocol is not your dissertation research. This empathy interview protocol that you're writing right now is not for your dissertation. You will not be drafting it this week and then going out and engaging in empathy interviews. There's a lot of things that have to happen before that happens. One of the primary things being Midland IRB approval. So as a class project, as a class assignment, in order to give you the opportunity to try these skills on, you're going to generate your protocol around a general topic or problem in education. One that, if you look at Module 6, you will be interviewing a colleague in this class using this protocol. So try to think of in what way you can explore a topic or explore a problem that your colleague in your class will easily be able to respond to, right? So this is not specifically related to your very narrow problem of practice. You want to do something in general that you know a colleague will be able to respond to. And that way we're just getting practice of writing these questions. And in Module 6, you'll get practice of actually engaging in that method of data collection. So again, just applying skills to any general topic or problem, and then we'll be kind of putting those skills into action in Module 6 in data collection, okay? So hopefully that's clear. Just a reminder, it's not specifically about your problem of practice. It's about a general topic or problem for this assignment in particular that you will use in Module 6. A few quick things I want to point you to. So the Module 5 resources that you have, there are 3 resources that are listed in your overview page. So you are to read like an excerpt from Hinnant Crawford's Improvement Science in Education, where Hinnant Crawford discusses empathy interviews. There's a lovely resource from Texas Network for School Improvement on empathy interview planning protocol. And then another empathy interview guide, I say they use guide instead of protocol, from the High-Tech High GSE Center for Research on Equity and Innovation. And then you also have another resource, a 4th resource by these 2 authors that's located within your empathy interview protocol assignment. So within the assignment page, likely where you're also finding this video. The primary resources you'll use are these 3 resources that are going to be like fairly in depth. What's really nice about this empathy interview resource is that they also give you a nice like kind of checkbox as a way to self-evaluate, as a way to determine whether or not you are writing the empathy interview protocol with a sense of fidelity perhaps. So these are the primary resources that you'll use. I'll point out one resource in particular. I'll point out this High-Tech High GSE resource, and you'll see that they give you some examples of some empathy interview questions. Part of your assignment will be to write 4 to 6 main questions, and each of those main questions has follow-up questions. Now, when working with students over time, this is often can be one of the biggest sticking points when they're writing their first ever interview guide, is because they have trouble distinguishing the difference between a main question and a follow-up question. Just because you're asking one question after the other doesn't necessarily mean it's a follow-up. And so this guide and this example, this resource, gives a really nice distinction to it. So one thing I want you to notice is that I've kind of highlighted in these red boxes, for example here, 2 main questions. And these main questions are open-ended, meaning you want your participant to basically talk for paragraphs, right, to give this really rich response. And they almost are like this story prompt. Tell me about a time when. Here, tell me about a time when you felt successful with X, right? Now, depending on what your topic or the problem that you're investigating, you're going to have a different, you still might have, tell me about a time when, but it might be something specifically related to your topic or the problem of practice, right? The follow-up questions are, how did it feel? Why do you think you were successful? What did you do? What did others do? And these follow-up questions dig deeper and allow you to explore specific elements of their response. So we can think of this as like one main question is trying to explore one aspect of the phenomenon or one aspect of the problem. And the follow-up questions are trying to get more detailed. You're trying to get really closer into the forest, right? If the main question is about what does the forest look like, your follow-up questions are like getting into the nitty-gritty of the trees. So you're really wanting to dig a little bit deeper into those follow-up questions. Some of the follow-up questions aren't as story prompty, right? It's how did it feel? Why do you think? What did you do? What did others do? It's not about tell me about another time when, and you're getting into a whole nother topic, right? That would be a whole nother main question, which you see here. So then the next main question is, tell me about a time when X was hard. It's just a sample of a main question. Again, it's open-ended. It's more of a prompt than a question, right? Tell me about a time when. And then here are the follow-up questions. Why was it hard? How did it feel? What did you do? What do you wish would have happened? What would have helped? We can see how these follow-up questions are trying to give us a little bit more of like the intricacies of what that time was like or what that experience was like from all of these different angles. So I thought this resource did a really nice job with that. And even how they are outlined here in this outline form, this is a very appropriate way for you to develop your own interview, your own empathy interview protocol in this outline form where it is clear what the main question is and it is clear what the follow-up questions are because there's this hierarchy, right? Because there's this delineation between those types of questions. And it's really clear to me, at least as a reader and evaluator, which ones are the main questions and which one are the follow-up questions. So a few quick tips, and this just comes from some of my work and working with students as they develop interview protocols, interview guides over time. My first suggestion is to brainstorm a whole list of main questions first. And I consider main questions to be questions that are about like different facets or different elements of the problem or of the topic. They're almost like different chapters in a book. They have a different kind of theme to them. Because I can always draft follow-up questions that get deeper and deeper and deeper into one theme, that can get deeper and deeper and deeper into one element or one facet of that problem. But if I'm thinking of main questions, I'm really trying to get at these kind of bigger ideas that might be a little bit more spread out from each other. They might have, certainly they're related to the problem, but there's a difference, there's a uniqueness to them. Brainstorm a whole big list first. I expect you in this assignment that you probably should not be submitting your very first draft. It should have some refinement. Because what happens if you don't brainstorm a whole list of questions first and you just kind of write them all out, you might not realize, I can usually see it as an evaluator, you might not realize that some of your main questions are really just asking the same thing. So if you give yourself time and space to brainstorm, maybe like 10 open-ended story prompt, maybe 15, right? Then try to sort those 10 or more questions into different categories, into different chunks. And then decide which of those, of each category, do you think are really going to be the best main question to ask that might be the most beneficial for asking, or that might be worded more open-endedly, or you think demonstrates exactly what it is that you're really wanting to explore. So you're kind of brainstorming and then filtering and figure out which ones are just kind of fluff and you don't really need, and which ones might be really important. Once you have your main questions, then go in and add your follow-up questions to each main question. Now, they might all look fairly similar in nature, but it doesn't mean that you're just copying and pasting the same thing. You might need to explore certain pieces of one main question differently than the other. Maybe one main question lends itself a lot toward maybe emotional reactions, and another main question topic lends itself a lot toward processes. And so you might have different follow-up questions based on the main thing that you're really trying to dig into. One thing I also would like to add, because I think it can be really helpful in the interview experience, and it can also be helpful for you as the interviewer, is this prompt of like, you mentioned blank. What did you do? Or like, what did you do about that? You know, like you're trying to anchor back on something that they said, and that can be really helpful, especially for them as recall, so that you're also kind of on the same page. It also requires you to be a fairly active listener and to decide when you're listening to folks in the interview process what it is that they're talking about. You don't really want to interrupt them right away. That would be like, don't interrupt them, like let them keep talking, because there might be more there that you want to follow up on. And then you're just kind of making these mental notes, but I would highly recommend you have like a pen and paper nearby and you're kind of jotting down, oh, they mentioned blank, I'm going to come back to that, right? So having that, you mentioned that time, you mentioned you were in the hallway that one time, what did you wish would have happened? I don't know, I just made something up, right? You mentioned blank, tell me more about that. Maybe there's something that they mentioned, kind of just breezed over, right? Sometimes we do that in social interactions. We're like, well, anyways, and we just keep going. It's like, actually, no, that's really important. You mentioned this like a few minutes ago. Can you tell me more about that? I'm really interested. One thing I'm going to encourage you to avoid is to avoid assuming that any question can be a follow-up question. So again, like what happens is I'll see an interview protocol and I'll have a main question. And then if I'm reading through the follow-up questions, there are like different main questions situated as follow-up questions. Like there's a whole turn, like we take a big turn toward a whole different theme, toward a whole different facet of the problem. Just because it's in an outline form doesn't mean that it's actually a follow-up question. So follow-up questions should not be about a new topic. You're not trying to steer them into a whole new direction of conversation. For follow-up questions, you're trying to dig deeper and understand that scenario that they told you about in more depth. So they should dig deeper into the main question. So make sure that your follow-up questions are indeed follow-up, and they're not like main questions kind of posing as follow-up questions in your outline, in your protocol. And so those are some of my tips. Hopefully this is helpful. Good luck. Again, give yourself permission to have like a messy first draft, and then to come back and like give it a day and then come back and refine it. You'll be surprised as to like what questions you don't realize are actually duplicates. Or what questions you realize, I actually asked 2 questions in one. I need to separate those out and ask 1 question at a time. Yeah. Okay, hope you all enjoy this assignment. You'll have opportunity to apply it in Module 6 with your colleague. And so again, just a reminder again, to try to keep your questions situated so that your colleague can respond to them. Okay, take care.